Okay, well, hello and welcome to this Resourcing Tomorrow and Mining Beacon podcast. I'm Richard Roberts, and it's a pleasure today to be speaking with Fabiana Di Lorenzo. Fabiana is the Senior Director, Impact and Innovation with the Responsible Minerals Initiative, or RMI. Fabiana, thanks very much for joining us on this podcast today.
Thank you for inviting me.
RMI is seen as a leader in this the responsible mineral resource sourcing space. With its cross-industry efforts to promote responsible mineral sourcing. You're a key participant in Resourcing Tomorrow's discussion of sustainable and ethical mineral sourcing by various industries, including the automotive sector. Fabiana, it would be great if you could start with maybe just by briefly introducing yourself and your role with the RMI.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And it's a pleasure for me to be here. I work as a senior director at the RMI, and I focus mainly on the expansion of our work to the full scope of minerals and to support members understand what kind of ecosystem they want to see in place to help them do their own due diligence. And that's part of the majority of my focus. And I work on measuring the impact of our organization, which I can mention to you a bit later during this call.
Okay, as I said, the critical and strategic mineral sourcing will certainly be a key topic at Resourcing Tomorrow in a few months' time. What are some of the current projects RMI is focusing on to promote responsible mineral sourcing?
Yeah, the RMI, as some of you probably know, is the largest industry association we have in the mineral space. We have more than 500 members from the entire supply chain, and from different sector. And this is what makes the RMI quite unique. And at the moment, we are. The first thing one of the top thing we're doing is updating our ESG standard, and our responsible sourcing standard. The RMI is very well known for their assurance program. We do not only do assurance. We develop tools to support members joining forces and mapping their supply chain, understanding the value chain. But an important part of our work is ensuring that their upstream actors are assessed against the standard. And the thing we're currently doing is updating the ESG standard and the due diligence standard so that it aligns with the new regulatory environment. Another thing it is on our dish is understanding the mineral value chains of all those new minerals in scope for the green transition, and how we can engage with upstream actors. This might not always look the same for all minerals. Every mineral has its own value chain structure and different entry points. And one of our work that we do with the members is to sit together with unpack different minerals and understand the entry points, and also put together our collective knowledge, because every one of us will have an understanding and a knowledge about the value chain from different angles. And that helps us understand how to better engage in promoting responsible sourcing along the value chain. And this is a big part of it is demystifying the value chain. And this collective knowledge helps us demystify the value chain, especially for those minerals where it's very hard to understand what happens at every stage of the supply chain. What is the input? What is the output? What is exactly the process that happens at every single stage? And another priority for us this year and in the coming years is our technical assistance, is making sure that actors upstream understand what due diligence and responsible business looks like and what it means to be assessed against a standard to demonstrate that they're actually implementing responsible business practices.
Okay, and there's obviously been a lot of talk in various forums already this year about the challenges facing various industries trying to bed down responsible mineral sourcing. What do you see as the most significant of these challenges at the moment, and what I mean, you just alluded to some of the work you're doing. What work specifically are you doing to address some of these challenges?
I think the biggest challenge is securing critical minerals while managing ESG risks at every stage of the supply chain. I think this is the top challenge that the sector faces overall. And in relation to that is accessing full visibility of the value chain. In some instances, it's easier. For some value chain, for some mineral, it is easier to get a full understanding of the value chain. For others, it can be very difficult. And also for some components, it could be easier. Whereas for other components, it can be more difficult because the supply chain is more scattered. So you need different tools and different approaches to map the value chain. And in some instances, our members might join forces in mapping the value chain when it gets very complicated by using different tools like our mineral reporting templates, which helps get a full understanding of whoever is operating upstream and bring them into the system so that they can be approached and encouraged to adopt responsible business practices. And I think another major challenge is tackling those systemic challenges that are related to the circumstances of mineral extraction and processing that originate beyond industry practices like child labor. And for instance, recently, we spoke about it at the OECD, we have started working more closely with the ILO to understand where we can collaborate to support their work that focuses specifically on addressing child labor in certain countries. And so it's very important to collaborate with other actors because we cannot solve everything on our own. We really need the strong landscape of all actors that are operating in the space to make sure we all do our job the best we can.
Sure. I mean, collaboration partnerships are certainly key themes across many industries right now, certainly across the mining and metals industry. So, I mean, these cross-industry collaborations and partnerships are obviously important in the work that you're doing. Can you share any specific examples of new or successful partnerships that have advanced your goals?
Yes, I think our collaboration with metal associations is very important. It helps us better understand each metal and advocate for responsible sourcing practices more effectively. Metal associations have a very good understanding of the upstream space, and they have a good footprint there, and they can help us identify the bottlenecks. And in that, I think we have been working with industry associations and across the broad spectrum of minerals. With some we are working more closely, with some we are trying to understand more how we can better collaborate. And I think this is public information. You can see us speaking with them also in various webinars and forum, and this is very important because we can elevate that knowledge that is crucial for the responsible sourcing. There's no responsible sourcing without good knowledge of the value chain. But collaboration is very important among the different companies. And this is, I think, the bread and butter of the RMI, bringing together OEMs, electronics, battery producers, solar company, energy providers all together to unpack and help identify how to engage with suppliers and have one single voice. It would be much more difficult for them to engage with some suppliers on their own. But when they represent a broader coalition, a broader collective group, their voice is much bigger, it's louder. So they can also push out those requirements with a bigger voice. And that's, I think, this collaboration among members is crucial and is at the heart of our work. And then the collaboration with international organizations, like I said before, with the ILO, with the OECD. There are times issues we can't solve on our own, and we really need to sit with the OECD or the ILO or other association to really understand where do we go from here if we have hit a closed door and we don't know how to move forward. That's a lot of the work we do. Like we start understanding, okay, where do we move from here? How can we overcome this challenge that is common to everyone?
Sure. The RMI was formed back in 2008. It's become a group that's recognised by companies across many industries for helping them to address responsible mineral sourcing issues in their supply chains. What do you say when you're asked about RMI's most impactful achievements to date? And I guess how are you measuring the impact or success of some of these initiatives?
Yes, the measurement of our impact is something that RMI has always done over the past, but we never really published a report to say that's what we have done. And I think we missed on the opportunity to tell a great story. But in March this year, we did publish our first impact report, trying to capture everything we're doing, which is not simply how many assessments we carried out this year, right? Or how many upstream schemes we worked with. There is far more towards to assurance in the work of the RMI, and we together as a team worked for the last 2 years to really update our theory of change and also elaborate in an intelligible manner what we are doing, which is not always visible and people not always talk about. And we published our impact report. You can read it. It's on our website on the impact page. And it's our first attempt to tell this story. And I don't think is exhaustive. I think it's a first step. We're trying to understand more what kind of indicators we can capture. The indicators you will see is the ones we capture today. We have always captured. But I think that there is more that we can capture to fully elaborate the impact we deliver in the sector. And I think one other big achievement of this last years is the scale up of our assurance program. And the expansion of our work to more minerals than just 3TG and cobalt and mica. We are working towards giving a full ecosystem to our members so that they can operate within this ecosystem that gives them the tools and the knowledge, the start point to do their own due diligence. And also the opportunity to exchange with one another the challenges that they face or and share what works and what doesn't work. And I think these we worked for many years on 3TGs. Now we have a new challenge ahead of us, and we have extended the scope to accommodate the expansion of due diligence across a far broader list of minerals. And this has been dictated also by the new legislations that we have seen coming up, but also by stakeholders' expectations.
I briefly touched earlier on the Resourcing Tomorrow panel discussion. Can you maybe just provide a quick overview of the key topics to be discussed during the panel, and what are the main aims of that discussion from your point of view?
I think what is very important for this year at Resourcing Tomorrow is trying to really increase the dialogue between the downstream and the upstream. Very often these two groups gather in the same forum and in separately. Mining companies and go to certain forums, downstream companies go to other forums, but there is really a big need and opportunity to bridge these two groups and increase their exchange, increase their dialogue, and also understand one another. And Resourcing Tomorrow we're trying to give this opportunity where we want to see more downstream companies going to explain their ESG expectations and where those expectations come from. What are the reasons they are calling for greater ESG performance upstream? But it's also the opportunity for the upstream to really outline the challenges when trying to meet these ESG expectations. So I'm hoping that in the panel, we will not talk only about what works and what we can achieve, but also about what is difficult to unpack, what is difficult to achieve, so we can actually start thinking about what solutions can we find and what solution can we put in place to overcome those challenges. So responsible sourcing is not always, and responsible mining is not always easy. So we need to also outline those challenges so we can identify the solutions.
Sure, and I guess you'll also be taking a look at the future. Looking ahead, where do you see RMI moving forward over the next few years? What are the sort of main goals and objectives at this stage? And do you have a view on how you see responsible mineral sourcing evolving into the future?
Yes, I've been reflecting over this with the team and my colleagues for quite some time. I think the first goal and the first focus should be strengthening our ecosystem of support so that companies can do their own due diligence within the right set of tools and peers and groups that can support them in their own due diligence. that's definitely something we are focusing our effort on, and I think we're being pretty successful in creating that space. A lot of members are becoming more and more active. The RMI is only as good as our members make us. So it's very important that they're active, and it's fantastic to see how many members have become more hands-on and understand how important it is to work collaboratively with other members. The other goal is strengthening our role in providing informative data points. I mentioned it already before in terms of impact, right? How important it is to understand what we gather today and what we can still gather in the future. And I think we have a lot of information, but a lot of data points do not make sense if they're not structured, right? If they're not conveyed in the right way. So I think we're going to be focusing on that. And this is probably the top two goals for the coming years.
Okay, anything else you'd like to share about RMI's work or on this area of responsible mineral sourcing at this stage?
Yes, I think what we often forget is in the RMI, I think it's very important to remember that the RMI is not just an assurance program. It's often forgotten. It's often reduced to it. What is the importance of the RMI is the fact that it is a very large industry association with more than 500 members from the entire supply chain, and that helps bring different perspective. It helps place a total value chain approach when we look at responsible sourcing and responsible mining. It helps us bring the different pieces of the jigsaw together. So we do not single out one part of the supply chain and look only at that supply chain. We look at the whole value chain. And for us, it's becoming central to the work we do, the building of knowledge. We have realized that there is no responsible sourcing without knowledge. And incidentally, there's no collective leverage without good knowledge. Many times we make assumptions. That is where the leverage sits. Very often when we look at different mineral supply chain, we realize that leverage might sit somewhere else. And we would not be able to engage with various actors upstream in the right way had we not looked at the value chain in its entirety, unpacking it and understanding exactly the entry point and who can hold those important conversations with upstream companies. And I think it's very important we remember that, because often we reduce the RMI to just the assurance program. It's the whole work around it that then speaks to the whole concept of due diligence. Assurance is just one step of due diligence. It's an important one. It's a flagship program of the RMI. It's true, but it happens within a certain type of context.
Sure. Well, I mean, congratulations on everything the RMI has achieved so far, and thank you very much, Fabiana, for your time today. We look forward to seeing you in London in December.
Thank you so much, Robert.